skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name.
Oh, hey guys, this is Red Pole Q here as usual, and with me I have
McConnell,
who you should remember from last time if you listened in. He does fashion and and he's also our resident web maestro.
Yeah.
And also
AKA Golden Fox.
yeah.
AKA no, that's all I got. That's all for now.
All right, and
Hey guys, Evan.
all right. And we got a few questions and some crazy stories for you this time around. Actually, we earlier on before we started recording, you were talking about you were talking about your major faux pas this week that happened yesterday.
Nice.
Okay. This is not the first time that this has happened to someone. Vision has made this mistake, although it was not as bad. So go ahead and tell them what happened.
Well, I don't know, from the very beginning though, this girl was really, really hot, and I approached her when we were out one night, and then it was going really well, and I was like, cool, I got her in contact info, and I went to leave, and you pushed me back into it.
Yeah.
And then since then, you and McConnell have constantly been encouraging me to talk to her because she's so hot, but I've been reluctant. I don't know why. And then
Is this the fat girl?
No! Which was the fat girl? Oh no. One story at a time. Anyway, There's no fat girls.
Since Saturday. Oh no, that was Friday.
Okay.
It's only Tuesday. Give
Anyway,
me
it's
time.
not your fault. Vision made you.
Yeah, so she put up this picture on Facebook, really hot picture of her, pretty much, I guess she's at least no shirt on, and she had her knees up, and she was naked. And so I copied it, and I decided I'd just send it to her and just let her know, really sexualized, and I sent her a message and said, oh my God, I want you so bad, with some emoticons in that picture. But then I didn't send it to her. I sent it to another girl. I sent it to Tina, a girl that I also really want. And so I was like, fuck. So this girl, Tina, she doesn't speak any English, and I don't speak Chinese. So I had to run around and find a friend that could send her a Chinese message, and be like, "Hey, this is my friend's girlfriend. Do you think she's pretty?" And she's like, "Yeah. What do you think?" And I'm like, "I think you're better." And then she's like, "Why is your Chinese so good all of a sudden?" And then I just didn't reply. I had to do something else. Yeah. But we're supposed to have a date tonight.
Oh yeah,
We'll
but it's funny. I mean, there's things like this happen sometimes. It happened to Vision a couple. He sent a picture of another girl to this girl. He was frantically messaging me, being like, "Dude, bro, help me out. What do I do?" But yeah, the standard thing is to do exactly that and be like, "Oh hey, yeah, this is my friend likes this girl. Do you think she's
seems
hot?
like
What do you
tough
think?"
message to cover up though.
Wow, the part about I want you so bad.
I know, you're so sexy.
Well, she can't speak English, so it might actually work in my favor.
I was thinking about that. Maybe she just missed it.
She'll send it to a friend for sure.
I know.
Don't forget to bring some more pictures tonight to show her.
But it's always bad.
This is what happens when you have lots of numbers versus focused on 3 or 4 girls that you really want.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. It does happen. I mean, and that's you basically have a choice about how you run things. You can either run it by getting lots of numbers and just sort of messaging everyone and seeing what happens, or you can focus in on a few and really plan out and strategize what you should be texting to them so that you can maximize your chances of getting those 3 or 4 girls, or I think really it's hard to properly text more than about 4 girls at a time.
I'm always so careful sending any text or message or anything. I'm always double checking. Am I sending it to the group, or am I sending it to the girl, or am I sending it to my girl? And then once it's teed up, you can see the group name in the chat. So you're oh, okay.
Yeah, what happens sometimes is guys will write a message that has the girl's name in it, and then they'll queue it up for multiple girls,
fuck.
and they're like, oh. You know what? One of my biggest errors was I sent a message out, and this is before. Now Line Messenger isn't like this, but it used to be like this, where if you sent it to a group of people, it would open up a chat room.
Oh yeah.
And they all
gives you the
in chat
option
room.
now.
Yeah.
I've done.
And then all the girls that you want to bang are all together in the chat room.
I've done the thing. I use Line on my computer, so I've done the thing where like I went to click on a girl's name and then I accidentally dragged the name. Like I clicked and dragged instead of just clicking, and it dragged it into another girl's name, right? So then it opens up a chat with two of them.
Oh.
And it's really bad. So be careful, don't do that.
I just wanted you guys to meet. So.
Oh man. So yeah. So anyway, so I thought that would be.
Yeah, I mean, like,
Thanks
well,
for
if
sharing.
yeah. I was like, man, if I pull her now, this is gonna be epic. I'm like, I threw my own obstacles in the way, and then I overcame them for the bull.
Maybe you just like start sending like random other people pictures. Be like, oh
What about
yeah,
this one?
and look at this guy. Do you think he looks hot or?
It's a thought.
But yeah, these things happen. One of the things that's really funny, I think, about when you sort of start hanging out with guys, from our crew or whatever, is that before you're like really embarrassed about everything, and then you like realize that no matter what you think is like embarrassing or way out there, you've got nothing, right? I mean, recently we met this guy who he loves banging ladyboys.
Oh man.
Yeah. I mean, at least he's open about it.
Yeah.
Well, they're not ladyboys. They're chicks. They just have dicks. Right?
Chicks with dicks.
I guess his thoughts are, if they have tits, it's definitely a girl.
Well, in his defense, he is in Thailand, or he was in Thailand, and it's like it's understandable why you might be more attracted to ladyboys than the actual women there.
Yeah.
Do you think
I
you should
mean,
bring this up
especially
to
if you
other
haven't
girls?
been to Kitty Spa.
Yeah.
So what were you saying?
Do you think you should bring this up to the girls he's dating?
No.
Absolutely
Unless they're ladyboys.
Yeah, unless they're lady.
I guess it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess if you meet like a really hot girl in Thailand, he can be like, hey, I just wanted to know, I think you're really hot. If you're a ladyboy, that's cool with me because, I know how it is with hot girls here.
Lady
But
boy
actually,
game.
if you have a girl in Thailand who gets upset about how people always think she's the ladyboy, then she's probably pretty hot.
Yeah, that's actually true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, lady, not lady boy.
But let me tell you guys, if you're actually interested in improving your game, do not go to Thailand.
Why no Thailand, Red Bull?
Oh, it's just that. Well, okay, so there's a couple of problems with Thailand, but the main one is that just girls don't really select guys on their personalities. I would say
Yeah, that's true.
they have this.
And really, like, their criteria is very strange in general.
Oh yeah, what would you
just,
say their criteria are besides looks?
It's probably like looks and
And
then
looks
just,
mainly means white
being,
skin.
Yeah, being Western or being foreign. Yeah.
I know, being white.
Yeah, I guess being
Specifically.
white. Yeah, being white specifically. So there's that, and then I think it's also just general status. Because even in Thailand, like there's a lot of status division between different groups of people.
Yeah.
And so the higher status Thais, they're very cliquish and they hang out in very specific groups, and so
And go to
often,
specific places.
Yeah, very specific places, and oftentimes like that's where the best girls are. Right, unless you fit into that sort of group, you're not going to get those girls. Even if you appeal to like low status girls who are looking for just like Western or for white Westerners.
Right. Totally.
So Thailand is kind of a weird system that doesn't exist really in other countries. I guess like other developing countries have this.
Sure. Yeah. That's really the thing.
And a lot of the lower quality girls, well, what we would consider lower quality, but I think a lot of guys would consider them actually pretty good.
Well, they are thin.
Yeah, they are
Yeah,
thin.
yeah,
They are
yeah.
thin. They're just substantially easier than other countries like Korea or Japan, for example.
Yeah.
Right.
So if you start in Thailand, then you're gonna be like, wow, this is so great. All these girls are responding so well. But then you go to other places and you're just totally discouraged.
Yeah.
Thais are also they're much more open to just having sex and having fun than people in other countries, I'd say.
Well, I
Like,
wouldn't say it's just
more
about
embedded
having fun, because afterwards they'd like want to live with you.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
You know, Monolith has had several occasions where his first date with a girl, she brought her like stuff to stay at his place.
Yeah, one of my friends in Thailand.
And I don't
like,
mean for one night.
Oh, no.
I mean like a suitcase.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, one of my friends in Thailand, he's from Europe and he moved to Thailand, and within the first week he was there, he had a girl living with him, and he's now married to her.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Man, that's
Yeah.
so dangerous.
Is she any good?
She's, well, to me, yeah, she's pretty small. So.
Her small size works in her.
Yeah,
but that's like
yeah.
a lot of Thai girls are really
That's
small.
true, yeah.
So,
So anyway, I guess she's pretty good. I mean, she speaks like fluent English and she travels a lot. So I guess relatively, she's pretty higher, high status in Thailand. So.
right.
There's a documentary of this guy that goes to Thailand, and I guess he's retired. Like, he saved up enough money to like retire and not have to work. And he's just kind of living there. He's just having fun, and he ends up banging this one girl, and she doesn't leave, and like she wants to live with him, and they end up like getting together and then getting married, and he gives her control over like all of his money and assets to pay the bills. He builds this giant house in the countryside, and then she just fucking kicks him out and takes everything.
And this is not an uncommon story.
Yeah. So there's a documentary I watched about that, but
Monolith
Yeah.
was telling me that there's like a bunch of like Japanese guys that are trapped in Thailand. They have no money. They can't leave
Yeah, this guy
because
had
they
to
gave
borrow
all their
money
money to
to
this
leave.
girl. Yeah.
yeah.
So, people go to Thailand and they think, oh, these girls are, they're from, these poor places and,
Yeah.
they don't have education and,
Yeah,
then,
right.
and they're disadvantaged and they don't know and they do not realize. I remember I was there looking at real estate one time several years back, and I went to this one guest house.
Yeah.
And the guy who was showing me around was like, oh, husband number 4 bought this for her. And I was like, oh, what husband is she on now? And he's like, oh, she's on number 5. Like, whoa.
Man, that's crazy.
And I met a guy once who was telling me that, he, similar to the guy you were just talking about, he'd bought her, a beer bar, and
Yeah.
he bought a house for her, and she called the cops on him, and the cops dragged him out of his, the house
Yeah.
that he had bought.
Do you think they're in on it? Do you think she gave them like a cut or something? The
cops?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, she's Thai and the cops are Thai, so you don't
Yeah.
need to. It's just, that I think a lot of foreigners, also misunderstand this, that, unlike developed Asia, where, as a foreigner, you don't have any particular value. So there's not really an incentive to screw you over in particular.
Yeah.
In developing Asia, they really just see you as some, asset that they can use.
Walking dollar sign.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you're out because you're outside of the culture, but then you also have value that they can't get elsewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas, in developed Asia, you're kind of safe because they don't see you as having any particular value.
Yeah.
Right? I
Yeah,
mean, if you're going to
definitely.
scam someone, scamming, most of the time you're going to be scamming someone who makes only $2,000 or $3,000 a month. It's not going to get you
Yeah.
very far
Yeah.
in Japan or Korea, is it?
No.
Not far at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
definitely.
All right. Well, let's. Oh yeah. So it's really interesting. Going back to this ladyboy thing. We're not going to spend a lot of time on ladyboy.
Yeah.
I think this is
I
really
was
really
like,
funny.
oh no.
Don't turn off the podcast.
What's really interesting though is that I always wondered whether the guy who was into ladyboys, was it just that he was actually kind of gay, and and so he was kind of gay but wasn't able to admit that to himself, and that's why he was doing ladyboys.
I've,
right?
I've read an article about this actually.
Oh.
And apparently almost like all of the ladyboy porn sites, their prime demographic is all straight guys. No gay guys look at ladyboy porn because they don't like girls, and ladyboys look like girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
So almost all of that stuff caters to straight guys because they're looking for like feminine
You almost said
body
normal
types.
straight guys.
Yeah,
You cut yourself
I
off.
almost say normal straight
Yeah,
guys.
okay.
Anyway, but it caters to guys who are like primarily interested in girls. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. I really. Yeah,
I wonder
re-
if they click on those by accident, though. Like, oh,
Well, what's interesting is that, it seems like it's really just a thing where here are these really hot girls that I can easily bang. And
That might
that
be
seems to
part
be
of it.
a lot like how they look at it. Although,
that's-
I was saying earlier that it seems like it's sort of a thing where, when she quote unquote has her clothes on, they're just looking at her as a girl. And then, you know, when they take their clothes off, it's sort of like when we take a girl's clothes off and it's like, oh, that bush is really hairy.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But for them, instead of it just being a hairy bush, there's a penis and balls down there.
Oh, it has one of those?
I guess everyone has their
wow.
own pain threshold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right, let's get into some questions that are more in the areas that's more towards our expertise.
Yeah.
What was that
I have nothing to
question?
offer to this.
One girl didn't like the color of, what was that?
Okay, by the way, guys, if a girl doesn't like the color of your balls, there's something wrong with her. I mean, unless your balls are like green.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, actually, let's start with this one. This is a good one. This is a guy who he's wondering if the reason he's having trouble getting girls is his ethnicity. So this is a guy this is a guy who's Indian and he's in Germany, but you know, this is a common topic of conversation for Western guys here. All right, so first of all, I'm sure all of you all heard when you came to Asia, especially like you two started out in Korea, and where did you start in Asia?
I guess I don't know. I did like a 6-month trip in like a lot of different countries. So I wasn't like living any one specific place.
Oh, okay.
And then from there, I was in Japan.
Okay, so you would say Japan was really the first Asian country.
Yeah, that I really lived in.
Right.
Yeah.
And when yeah.
No.
And when you moved there, you know, you probably heard that, you know, Japanese girls, Korean girls love white guys.
I love the Westerners.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
So, you know, do you believe that being a white guy made it easier for you than being Korean?
Good question.
Yes and no. Because, I mean, there's pockets. There's definitely small pockets of girls that are hungry for foreigners, but in general, no. In general, that's just not the way it is.
So you found a few of those when you were living in Suwon?
Yeah, living in Suwon, I was going to one of the local bars, and it was one of those bars where there's a good mix between foreigners and Korean girls or Korean guys or whatever. And, you know, a lot of the time in those type of bars, Korean girls will go there just to meet Western guys. And so those are really the small pockets that I'm talking about. But in general...
How many people have been in that pocket?
Right.
In my pocket? Or
And those small pockets that you were found at this
Those pockets aren't that small
with
anymore.
Yeah,
with
Loose pockets.
loose pockets.
Yeah.
I mean, finding those bars is kind of... Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of those bars out there. I mean, not one in every neighborhood or anything like that, but
Yeah.
you can find them. And then in those bars, you know, there's a few girls there. So...
So in that case, you found that those girls were pretty easy?
Yeah, those girls, very easy to talk to, usually very friendly, usually very open to your advances. Not that I had any clue what I was doing at the time, but yeah, to make any real headway, I've found that really you have to, learning Korean helps, learning the culture helps, like a lot.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, going off of what Evan said, so when I first got to Korea, I was in a smaller town called Daegu.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, if
It's
you think
funny
Seoul's
it's called a
hard...
smaller town because it's like
Why?
a huge city by Western standards.
Oh, yeah, well, 3 million people, but it's not, like, metropolitan in any sense,
yeah,
right? There's, like,
yeah.
8 buildings. But, like, sky rises. Like, I'd walk up and down and be like, I'm in the city, I'm in the city, I'm in the city. So there was, the first pull I got there was, I was, like, playing music. So I was like playing guitar and singing.
On the street or something?
No, I was doing open mic at like a pub. Like this kind of pub that he's describing. Like it's the one Western type pub where all
Thursday
the Asian girls
party?
go.
In
No,
Daegu?
it wasn't. It was a little bit higher class than that.
Wednesday party.
Yeah, it was Tuesday nights. So I went there and so this girl approached me. That's how bad my game was. She approached me and was like, "Oh, I really like your music, but it's too bad you're gay." And I was like, "I'm not gay." And she's like, "Yeah, you are." And I was like, "No, I'm totally into girls." She's like, "No, you're not." So we went to another bar to get a drink together. And I was like, "This is sweet. I'm with
She's
an
like,
Asian
maybe
girl."
if I get this guy drunk, he'll be into girls for a night.
They're trying to introduce you to her guy friend.
Oh man, it's really, as I'm telling this story, I'm just having a realization right now. Like I remember there was another girl I was talking to at the bar that was working at the bar that I really liked, and then she's like the girl that kind of pulled me there. She just like left. She's like, "I'm leaving," and left. And I went and followed her. So I'm just like realizing like she just pulled me from set to set, place to place. So then she brought me to a DVD room, right? So like a room where you can watch movies.
Yeah.
So I was really drunk. She opens the door. She goes inside, and I'm really drunk. So I'm thanking the guy they'll let me in.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks so much, man, for like letting us in here. Blah blah blah. I turn around, she's naked. She took off all her clothes. She's lying there, and then she's like, "Is this okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's totally okay." So right away I start banging her, and she's like, "Oh, you're not gay." You're not gay. I finish, she passes out. She's asleep. She passes right out. All right, anyway, so I felt really good. Like, wow, that was no problem. Like an Asian girl. Like a week and a half later, I'm chilling with some buddies, and one dude I met. And this girl comes up. Her name came up. And the guy's like, yeah, she's sleeping at my place right now. Oh. She was at the other guy's place, like, sleeping. So, yeah. So, like, that's the kind of... Yeah, it's easy to get those kind of girls that love white guys, but those aren't the girls you want. If you want the really good girls, then it gets really tough.
Yeah,
harder than just meeting a girl back in your country.
Yeah.
That's a good story, man. I didn't know you weren't gay.
I had a lot to drink. I drank a lot. I proved it that night.
You should have been like, actually, I am gay. I'm just doing you a favor.
Is that why you had to drink so much?
What's that?
Is that why you had to drink so much?
Well, she wasn't the best I've ever been with. Drinking definitely helps.
Yeah, the really easy girls are always the ones that are like, yeah, definitely not the best. If you want anything that's like, pretty attractive, you definitely have to put in the effort.
Yeah. So you okay? And
Yeah,
what about
we can
for
stop
you?
talking about ladyboys now.
And what about you with your experience in Japan?
In Japan, I don't know. When I went to Japan, I didn't really have this assumption that it would be easier for me because I was white.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
no one told you that. Even the Japanese guys always say that.
Yeah.
Japanese,
you are a foreigner.
Japanese guys told me
They
this.
think that
but,
in Korea as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I knew that they didn't understand, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't know why I didn't have this thing, but I was like, of course it's not going to be easier because it's not. Maybe it's because I like learned game in the West, and so I like understood that it's just not easy, Or I mean, I shouldn't say it's not easy. It's just that you have to put in work, right? Like, and there's a certain type of girl that's easy. But that's not all that's not all girls, right? And it's only like a specific pocket. And I guess I just assume, I assumed that it would be the same anywhere I went. And then by the time I started living in Japan, I had already done a bunch of travel, and I understood that was true. That it was like, the girls that I wanted were going to be the ones that I had to work harder for.
Oh, because
so
you did like a tour, and you were like, "Wow, I haven't been pulling every night like like I would if it was easy."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was kind of my experience, and
You know what's always weirded me out though is that they say like, oh, you're foreign, so it should be really easy.
Yeah.
And then if you say, well, yeah, but don't you think foreign guys normally date ugly girls? They're like, yeah. It's like, well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that if you date ugly girls in any country, and when I say ugly, I don't, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Keep that in mind.
For sure.
But it is true that basically mostly foreigners are going for girls that a lot of local guys don't want. Maybe because we're comfortable with girls that are bigger because we're used to massive women.
There's a lot of women in the West.
Yeah. I mean, I used to say like when as a descriptor, I'd say, oh, she's fat by Japanese standards, which means she's like still skinny by Western standards, and so it's really this thing that I never understood how they could say, oh, it's going to be easy for you, but maybe what they really mean, it's easy for you because you have bad taste. They just don't say that last part.
Yeah. That's a very polite way of putting it.
But so this ethnicity thing for me, I'm black. That's not obvious to you listeners.
we're learning so much about everyone.
And it's funny because anytime a guy has trouble with game, and it doesn't matter what it is, he always tries to like find a reason why he has trouble. It's well, I'm too short, or it's because I'm white, or it's because
that are out of his control.
It's because I'm Asian. It's because I'm black. It's because I'm too old. It's because I'm too young. It's because I'm rich. It's because I'm poor. It's like whatever it is.
The real reason is you just haven't opened enough girls yet. You haven't gone up and talked to enough girls yet and perfected your
but it generally is true though that if you have something that is exceptional, like I mean, it's actually funny. Even guys who are really good-looking guys, they think that they have problems because they're too good-looking. Girls are intimidated by me.
My dick is so big.
So
this Ferrari's really holding me back.
But actually, but speaking of which, there's this complex in Tokyo called the Roppongi Hills, which is like this really high-end complex to live in.
Yeah.
And this guy, he would not tell girls that he lived there, because if he did, they were like, oh, I bet you fuck so many Japanese girls, and they wouldn't date him because of it, right?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting that, pretty much no matter what your situation is, there are going to be girls that you can't get that you would be able to get if you did more things right. Yeah. And it's true. There are some guys, if they have certain things, then as a percentage, they probably can get more girls than another guy.
Sure, mathematically.
I always joke about how, if I was 10 centimeters taller, which would still be short by most people's standards, I think
make you 4 or 5. What is that?
I know, right? It would definitely help me. I'm sure it would.
Yeah.
But I don't really consider there are probably a few girls a year that I don't get, because I lack that 10 centimeters or whatever. But there's still plenty of girls for me. I mean, I think I've had a few lifetimes of girls in my time.
I think we were talking about this Red Bull Q, like, game is a lot like poker, where there's just these things you can't control, right? And there's no matter how good you are at poker, you're not going to win every game.
Right.
Like, you just won't win every game. I mean, all the girls that you want, you're not going to be able to get all of them.
Yeah.
But as long as you know enough stuff, you can get a good percentage of them, right? You can increase your odds.
Right.
So I think that most guys don't think in those terms a lot of times. They're not like, oh, it's not. They're always looking at reasons why it's their fault.
Right.
Or it's like, but you can't look at it like that.
But still, it's the same guy wins every year when they have the big international games in Vegas.
Yeah, that's
it's always the
Red Bull
top
Q.
3.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, he's
that's what I'm
always
saying.
winning.
So it's like you don't win every game, but it's the guys that put it in the time and keep playing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They take all the money at the end.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, totally agree with that.
Honestly, yeah.
So it's and so I think it's a big mistake for guys to focus so much on what they're not getting or what other guys are getting. I know sometimes we are guilty of that too, right? It's just easy to do that, but
Sure.
But
it's easy.
for sure.
You said this once. I think you said it a year ago when you were speaking in Korea. You said everyone thinks it's easy for everyone else.
Oh yeah.
We just all think that they must be having so much sex.
Yeah.
Not me with my fucking haircut. It's just not the case.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, obviously, there are some places. I mean, I would say Thailand is a great example of that, where your ethnicity can really matter, but that's once again because they're not selecting guys on their personalities.
And even then, the top tier of girls it's still gonna be hard. You still have to be able to do certain things.
So
Right.
would you say it shouldn't be easy?
Yeah.
If you're getting good girls, it shouldn't be easy.
It should
That's
be
true.
hard.
Yeah.
That's
If it's
true.
easy,
Yeah,
then
yeah,
there's
yeah.
probably a problem.
Yeah,
That's true.
I agree with
Then
that.
they need to have coffee with you.
I would agree with that. A lot of times, if it's easy, then it means there's something off. for
Something's
sure.
wrong.
For sure. In fact, I mean, was that you who was saying that, if a girl, or maybe that was me, I don't know, but that when a girl was really keen, you're like, oh, what's going on here? This is really weird.
This isn't supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But it's kind of true, right? I mean,
Or if she is really keen and you think she's really hot, maybe she's not as hot as you think she is.
right. Or maybe it's a lady boy.
Yeah, man.
All right. Well, let's move on to this next question. It's really interesting. This apparently a girl was giving a guy advice on approaching women, which already that's terrible. That's a bad move. But she said that you shouldn't hit on a woman who's in a different league than you because you have zero chance with that woman. So you should hit on women who you do have a shot with.
Yeah. That's
What do you guys think about that?
complete crap. Just complete crap.
Sounds like advice that women would give guys about getting women.
Yeah. It's terrible.
What kind of goes against everything you teach? Literally.
Yeah, not only about game, about life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny. It's like, how do you know what your league is, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, yeah.
It's the interesting thing. There's a book which I bet you've maybe read this book. Have you guys read? It's a book by Robert Ringer called "Winning Through Intimidation," or "To Be or Not to Be Intimidated."
Okay. I haven't seen that one.
Have you know this book?
Sounds intriguing.
Yeah, it's a really great book, and essentially in the book he's talking about how he became a real estate agent, and when he was doing that, he decided to become a commercial real estate agent because when he looked at the industry, he's like, wow, you can make massive amounts of money in commercial real estate, and you don't make that much money if you do single houses, which is what people residential, which is what people normally say, like, oh, when you're starting, you should do residential, and he's like, well, but I want to do commercial because I want to make a lot of money. So why don't I just start there? And he said that because everybody starts at residential, there's so much competition for doing, single home residential commercial real estate brokering. So, if you just jump up to commercial from the beginning, there's a lot less competition. And he's talking about how what happens to most people is they start at the bottom doing that, and then they just never are able to really move up. So he has this thing called like the leapfrog principle.
Yeah.
So Robert Ringer is a really famous sort of self-help guru type guy, and I think that book is pretty worth reading.
Yeah, I've heard about this principle, by the way.
Oh yeah,
it's a common principle in self.
Yeah,
right.
I've
And I think he was the one who sort of first, sort of popularized it with his book, and he calls it the leapfrog principle. So just jump up to where you want to be and start from there. Because anyway, commercial real estate is so different from residential that you don't actually, a lot of the things you learn aren't really very applicable.
Yeah.
And so this was sort of my experience in Japan. When I first moved there, I was going to like the dive bars, these places where there's full of foreigner lovers.
Yeah.
And, I had so little game that, I don't think I got my first girl out of there, even though I went every Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
I didn't get my first girl out of a club until I'd been living in Japan for maybe 4 years or something.
Yeah.
No, not 4. 3, I think.
Damn, that's
3
a long
years.
time.
Yeah, because I was just terrible. I was so bad. And then, but I was still bad. I just, had girls who were similar to, the girl that you had, who basically, did all the work.
Right.
And then when I started working on game, I started hanging out with a different group of guys, and they went to like one of the best clubs in Osaka. So then I just started like working on this like much higher level of girl, and that just became the standard for me. And I didn't go through, this middle stage of getting a bunch of girls that were like sort of the girls that were looking for foreigners. Yeah. I remember when I first moved to Osaka, I met this black guy who'd been living there for a long time, and I was like, hey man, I'm not doing well with these girls. And he looked at me, he's like, don't worry man, we'll get you some hip hop clothes, you'll be all right. And there was this club, like it was like a reggae club called Sunsplash, and it was like really small. It was like the size of our apartment. Sounds dope. It was just, and you walk in there, it was like all these like black dudes just grinding on these fat Japanese girls. I was like, I don't think that's gonna work for me.
Sounds awesome. That's all I'm thinking right now. I'm like, Sunsplash.
I think I've been to a bar like that in Itaewon.
Oh yeah, I used to be all of the bars in Itaewon.
Actually, that hip hop clothes reminded me. Basically, a lot of it's about finding niches because everybody has something that's really awesome about them. They do something really well. They have like some really, really good, high quality characteristics. And really what you have to do is you have to find the girls that want those characteristics and really value those. And so, some of those are just going to be really hot girls. And if they like them enough, maybe the girl that's quote unquote out of your league is not exactly out of your league because you have what she wants.
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why it's important to talk to a lot of really attractive girls because, there are going to be some that if they knew you, they would go, wow, this guy is awesome. And I mean, looking at you, they're going to go, wow, you're short.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's me.
Exactly.
That's not you guys.
Yeah, I think you were the one who said like, if all girls could just watch a movie, like sit down and watch like a 2-hour movie about my life, then I wouldn't have to do game, right?
Yeah,
they would understand there's value.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like on the topic of leagues, I remember this happened a lot when I was in high school. And when I first got into game, I had like specific girls that I wanted to. I went to a small school, right? So I had like specific girls I wanted to talk to, and so I was like, oh, I'm gonna learn this stuff so I can talk to these girls, and it'll be great. And then I like started learning game, and I started going out in like the nearest city to me, and like I got better and better, right? And then I like would be in my high school and I'd be talking to girls who were hotter than the ones that I wanted to talk to before. And I was like, oh yeah, those girls, I was like, they're not that good. And I like didn't want them anymore because I was already like going beyond, right?
Yeah.
But my perspective was just so out of whack because I wasn't even doing anything before. And like, of course, that first tier of girls who I was interested in the beginning, they probably weren't that interesting anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that because I wasn't going out and doing things. So like once it's really easy to kind of to like move yourself up into different leagues, quote unquote leagues after you actually understand like basic principles.
Right.
And after you like understand kind of, like who you are relative to these other people. And once you have more value, then you can easily like jump up in terms of like social social position.
Right.
Isn't it really interesting that guys who say they don't need game or game is for losers, they're dating the worst girls, but they think they're like really good. They're like my girlfriend, she's so beautiful, but when you look at her, it's like she was hit by a truck or something. They just don't have like that wider perspective of like what else is possible in terms of like dating.
I think it also comes to the point. I remember like this one time when I was in high school and I took the day off school. I was like, I'm just not going to go to school. And I was sitting with this girl. She was kind of a bad girl.
Bad boy.
And
bad boy.
This still sits in my memory. We're sitting on this like grassy hill and we were talking about girls at school. And she's like, "Who do you like?" And I was telling her, and she's like, "No, you can't get that girl. You can't get that girl." And she's like, "You could date Courtney." And Courtney was this weird, she's this weird, awkward, tall girl.
You have
She's
interesting experiences with Courtney.
She's like, "Yeah, you could." Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah. She's like, "Yeah, you get a Courtney." And I remember I was like, "Oh, I guess that's all I can get." But then I moved out of my shitty town, and I realized like this is a shitty town. And there's like, but there are a lot of guys don't, or a lot of guys stay in that realm where it's like there's these weird little societal hierarchies set up in these weird chody places where it's like you get this and you get that, but it makes no sense. And it's like challenge those hierarchies, and you're like, and so like when you guys are talking about hot girls in leagues, I do way better when I approach a super hot girl than when I approach a girl that I think is maybe more in my league.
Yeah.
The hot girl's more excited. Like you came up to her, she's used to guys approaching her, and you're a go-getter. If you're learning this and you're listening to this, you're better. You're worth the top. So
Plus, you're more motivated to try and get her. Whenever I'm like trying to talk to a girl that I feel
hand me down 6.
That's like not quite as attractive as I want. I always find it really, really tough to like interact with her well.
Right.
So I'm just not interested.
Yeah.
The girls that you find like really good looking, those are the ones that you put a lot of effort into like the conversation.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, because you're like every time she like laughs or something, you're like, yes, I'm killing it. Whereas the other girl, you're like, oh, I wonder if I can take her home right now.
Yeah.
How much longer do I need to talk to her?
She laughed.
Do I need to take this girl on a date? Oh, I hope not. Fuck. If this girl gives me any trouble, I'm gonna be so annoyed. But yeah, I totally agree with that. But the other thing is that during boot camp when I'm teaching guys, and oftentimes they still don't have that wider perspective, and I'm like, oh, why don't you go and talk to that girl? And they're like, oh. No. And I'm like, well, why not? They're like, oh, I don't like her. And you're like, bullshit, you don't fucking like her. It's like there's like girls who don't go to certain clubs because they know that when they go to those clubs, they're not, other girls are so much better looking than them, they don't want to go there.
Interesting.
That's kind of how guys are about like, so you were saying, I think they just don't even see those girls.
Yeah.
It's like those girls don't even exist as part of their universe. Because if they recognize they exist, and they have to realize how that the girls they get are not that good.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not what they really want. So they just negatively hallucinate them out of existence. And so like I'll say to the guy, hey, have you ever seen like a girl or had known a girl that you thought was really hot and you thought her boyfriend was a big loser? And they're like, yeah. Or you see girls that you think, wow, why is she with that guy?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, the reason she's with that guy is because that was the best of her options, because you weren't talking to her.
For sure.
You were sitting around going, oh, I don't want that. Yeah. I'm not interested in that super hot girl that looks like like a model. I want a nice girl. Believe me, those hot girls can be nice too.
I want somebody they could talk to.
Those hot girls know how to cook sometimes.
It was really interesting. I like look back at a lot of the popular or cool guys that went to my high school. Speaking of small towns, actually.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at them, and they're just dating like these really fat chicks. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like, is this what happened to your life? You're working at like Home Depot, and you're dating these terrible girls.
Yeah, I think one of the best things that my dad ever said to me was, because obviously in high school my life was so incredibly terrible.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't worry, son. For some people, high school is the best days of their lives. And that's those guys you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I was like,
definitely.
oh my god, if this is as good as it's getting.
Yeah.
I'm jumping in front of a train.
Yeah.
I had a boss once, and he had, he was total high school jock, meathead, and he owned like a little nursery, like plant store or whatever. And you go into his office, and there's like all these high school stuff, like all this memorabilia, and that he's just looking at his life now and thinking like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But he's looking back, and he's like, man, I was so great in high school.
But I think some people do crush it in high school, and then they crush it in life.
Yeah.
Like there's people who are like, oh, that fucking football, like the captain of the football team, then he gets into politics, just crushing it. But then there's people that did bad in high school, but then were awesome in their 20s.
Yeah.
But then their 30s were bullshit. So I think it's just like you just have to keep growing.
Yeah.
Never get stuck to a
that's-
certain decade.
That's
That's
definitely
Like the
right.
next year is your big year.
Yeah.
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 That's
Definitely.
right.
I do. I just remember thinking like in high school, I was like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But then, you know, once I get out, it's gonna be really awesome. Things are gonna be really cool. And then you know,
And
now
then they were.
now, like I like talk when I talk to like some people I know from like high school or childhood. They're like, "Oh man, you know, it was really fun when we were in high school." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, shit's really cool right now." And sometimes I'll like have dreams where I'm like back in high school, and in the dream I'm like, "What the fuck? It wasn't supposed to be like this. I thought I was done." And I wake up like, "Oh, good."
McConnell, how old were you when you started to pick up in this whole self-improvement thing?
Yeah, I was 15.
Man,
14? 15? Yeah, 15.
3 years later today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So your life just got better and better.
I mean, it's like, you know, it goes in phases, right? You know, your life is like really good, and then you have like periods where you crash, kind of, and you have to like fix it. And,
Really? Did you have a period where it crashed? When was that?
yeah, I mean, I have like, you know, I mean, you have like pockets of like success and failure, right? Like when I was in Japan and I was working a lot, I like obviously didn't have time for girls, so it's just like your life falls into like in and out of balance, right?
Yeah.
So it's more like that. I mean, it wasn't that my life was like bad. It was just that it needed to be rebalanced.
Okay.
I think
sure.
that's
I
sort
can
of
dig
what
that.
happens. Yeah.
Right. On the other hand, you were living in Japan.
Exactly. Yeah. So it really wasn't that bad.
Okay, let's wow, how much more time do we have?
It's 3:50
Yeah,
right
15. I gotta head out.
15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's just hit one sex question because I really
Sweet.
like this one. It was a guy asking about the anterior and the posterior fornix.
Yeah.
So you guys have all taken the art and science sex seminar, and you're pretty familiar with the AFE and the PFE. That's the anterior fornix and the posterior.
They're by the
fornix.
neck, right? Underneath
Yeah,
the chin.
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I'm doing it right.
Earlobe.
We're talking about turtles, right?
So first of all, you know, what has been, you know, your experience with that when you were actually bothering to do anything with them?
If you hit him right, wow, she really loves it. yeah, definitely. You know, there's a lot of guys that just like pump in and out. But then you know, if you get the right angle, it makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's interesting. This guy is he's concerned about his the size of his penis because he feels like he's not hitting the walls and working the middle. You know, and so I just wanted to explain really briefly. I mean, for the most part, I think, you know, the length isn't really a problem. I mean, because, you know, I have fairly short fingers. I mean, I don't know, how long is this? What, 20 centimeters? Not even, right? Maybe 10? Yeah. 10 centimeters or something? My fingers aren't that long. But I have no problem, you know, reaching the... Anyway, if you're, you know, I mean, I suppose it's possible that your penis could be the same length as my fingers, but you would be really unhappy about it, and so would she. But anyway, but it's not that far back. And basically, when you put your fingers into a girl's vagina, if she's on her back and you just put your middle finger and forefinger, and we'll have diagrams on the page so you can look. But when you put your middle finger and your ring finger, just slide them on the upper wall of the vagina until you just get your fingers all the way in, and you'll sort of feel like the back of the vagina, the end of the vaginal canal, and under your nails you should feel like a slightly hard nubbin, which is the cervix, right? Yeah. And so really it's just that area. And if you pump your fingers gently but firmly, then, you know, sometimes girls, you know, in the beginning they're not very sensitized to this area, so they don't notice, or they don't really have like that strong of a reaction. But over time, they definitely develop a sensitivity to it. Was that your experience with your girl?
Well,
the first time she was just all about it.
Yeah, I think she was all about it. She was all over it.
She's fiending.
Screaming.
I'd say before I took the sex seminar, I'd always like finger them beforehand, but they'd always be doing something else during. So they'd be trying to kiss me, or they'd be like, I want your dick. But now, after I took the sex seminar and I'm doing it right, they just lie back. They're just like, enjoying it. Yeah, enjoying
Drool
it. So.
coming out. Yeah,
Yeah, they don't want my dick. Pick another song on YouTube.
Yeah, and the posterior fornix is basically the same, but it's just on the bottom. You just slide your fingers along the bottom and down, you know, sort of back, and it's down there. And I really prefer. I think it's really easy. There's a lot of discussion in the West about the G spot, and I think the G spot is far more annoying. It's not as easy to stimulate because it's just behind the pelvis, so you need a lot more force, I find. And also, you really have to stimulate it like much more. The area I find is a little bit smaller, whereas I feel like when you stimulate the AFE or the PFE, it's sort of like you can't really go wrong. She can, if she's giving you a blowjob while you're doing it or something, you're not gonna like not be hitting it, which is I find much more the case with the G spot.
Yeah, you get way more response. When I was in the West, still I kind of like. I did the G spot stuff, and it was like really hit or miss. I mean, sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't. And I mean, I even had girls who I didn't know about the AFE and the PFE yet, so I wasn't doing that stuff, and I was just like, oh man, why isn't this working? Like I'm doing what the G spot, like when people talk about the G spot, I was like doing what they said, but then it wasn't working. And now, of course, it's like it's obvious every time that you're like hitting those areas. So yeah, definitely focus more on those.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I was going to say is that as those become more sensitized, then when you're actually having intercourse with her, then she can feel it a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
When, from your penis, and then that's really how you can get girls to have multiple orgasms during vaginal sex.
Yeah.
There's all this talk about having to stroke the clitoris and all this stuff, and you can, but a lot of times if I add that in, the girl, it's just too much for them. It's like they're already enjoying it so much. You add that in, and they go crazy. Oh, the penis done ejaculated in their brain. We'll have to link to that too.
Yeah, this
is a really great video, and the woman, her name is Alexis K. Tyler, and everything she says is so spot on. It's amazing. So don't just because the messenger may not be what you would expect. Still pay attention to the message. It's good. Yeah. All right, well, I guess we can close it down now. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was good.
Super fun. I'm looking forward to doing another one next week or something.
Yeah, keep those lady boys in the roster.
I just want to bring up that you can't practice AFE, PFE stuff on ladyboys. Just be aware.
You could try.
All right. See you guys.